Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts, like the chart behind me, which is of Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR. And so here I am recording this on Tuesday, May 7th, after the market has closed, and Palantir closed at a price of $21.40, being down more than 15% on the day after reporting earnings. After hours yesterday on May 6th, seeing this gap down. And so I just wanted to go over some levels that stand out to me moving forward. I do think that there could be some great opportunities with Palantir's stock price potentially going lower, potentially being great dip buying opportunities before moving back up higher. And so I didn't want to go over, the levels that I have drawn up here, including a Fibonacci retracement in gray. But yeah, I'm just going to take you through my thought process, really, coming back to the last video that I put out, which came out on March 23rd. So after the trading day of March 22nd here, where the cursor is. And during that video, I posed the question that, I was wondering, were we putting in a head and shoulders pattern here with this purple line being the neckline? And so with that being the case, if it were to be the case, we could take a measurement from the top of the head down to the neckline, move that over to where the break was, and from that measurement, I was thinking that price might be coming down to this blue line here, right around $18 here, marked at $17.87, which was the high on February 5th before the gap up here following earnings. And so, one thing about that is that price has come down, but I think it's good to not be stubborn, to not be set on numbers or levels being hit. And as you might notice, there are a number of levels between the current price and that blue line that might be acting as support. And so, I do think that price may not get back down to $18 a share. And so I just wanted to point out the levels that do stand out. And so I'm going to try to do this going from like the top down. And so basically this red line here does correspond with these two pivot highs that we saw in the past here, with one high being hit on August 1st of 2023, and then the other one hit on November 21st. And so that is how I got that line. And from it, we can see that yesterday's price action did dip down to test both of those levels, but we got a close above. And also, from this Fibonacci retracement that I've done, hopefully you can see it in gray here, going from the low hit on February 1st, just before earnings, and then to the high hit on March 7th at a price of $27.50. From that Fibonacci retracement, we can see that the 236 level is at $24.79. And so yesterday on the 6th, we saw not only a test of the red and purple lines here, but we also saw a close above the 236, closing yesterday at a price of $25.21. So it did look pretty strong. It did look pretty good. But the one thing that it was not showing was a confirmation, a confirming close above these levels. So that would be a close at a higher high. And we did not see that. And since we were seeing moves to the upside before earnings without confirmation, it did seem like price could be going lower, but of course it also seemed like it could be rallying more, maybe getting up to this yellow line up here, which I'll go over in just a minute. I do think price will eventually be getting back up to that yellow line, but it might be testing the bottom one first. And so, with that not showing confirmation before earnings, us seeing this drop, I do think it's also pretty important to recognize the price that we closed at today at $21.40, which is below this orange line here, marked at $21.85. And so that price corresponds to the high hit over here on November 21st, just being a pivot high. I thought that price might be returning to that level, and that was another high, following a big move, a gap up following this earnings report that came out on November 2nd, gap up, and then that pivot high marked this level here, this orange line, and we closed below it. We also closed below the 50% level from the Fibonacci retracement. That's at a price of $21.77. But, like I said about this one, we only got one close above those levels. We've only gotten one close below these levels. So I think it's going to be pretty important to see what price Palantir closes at on Wednesday. If it closes above 21.85, it's quite possible it could be reclaiming these levels as support. And then I did also want to point out that it has claimed some of these Fibonacci levels as support on its way down from 27.50, having hit a low from this pullback on April 19th, which was at a price of $20.33, being lower than the 618 at a price of $20.41. But we did get a close above that level, getting a close at $20.47. So that level was respected in the past. The big question is, will it be respected again? We have seen tests of these levels, like the 50% here, that price eventually broke lower. And also we saw a test of the 382, price broke lower. And also, here, brief support found at the 236. So I do think that the 618 could be broken and price could be going lower. But will it get down to the 786, which is at a price of $18.48, pretty close to the high hit on January 22nd, which was at a price of $18.35, also getting pretty close to the $18 range. And this blue line here at 1787, having closed on that day though, on February 5th, at a price of $16.72, that would be a more proper gap fill. But, I just don't see price going all the way down to that level. I do think 18 would definitely be a stopping point if it does break below either the yellow line or the green line. And so I'm just going to go over those levels here because I do think they will represent some great dip buying opportunities. And so really, I guess before I get on to the yellow line, while it is higher than the green one, it's easier to go over the pivot points that the green line is based on. So as you can see where these two blue circles are, those are the two pivot points, one being the low from September 21st of 2023, and the other being the low of November 1st. So that's how I get that line, and that could correspond with a retest of the 786, and that would be hitting that level at the end of May if this convergence of those levels was to be hit. But anyways, I do think that could be a secondary level of support if the yellow line does not hold. Potentially, there could be some wicks down to that level, but then closes above the yellow line. And so those would be great dip buying opportunities. And they would also be, above 1787. So like I said, good to not be stubborn about prices, good to not be stubborn about levels, especially when there are some pretty substantial levels that do stand in the way. And one that I've seen on Twitter, I've seen it around, it is this yellow parallel channel that I've drawn here. And so this is based on these two pivot lows, one being the low hit on May 4th, which is at a price of $7.28. And the other one being the low hit just before the prior earnings report that was released at the beginning of February. And so that low was at a price of $16.03 hit on February 1st. And so those are the two pivot lows. And the pivot high is based on this point here, hit on August 1st at a price of $20.24. And one thing that I think is remarkable about this parallel channel is it nearly perfectly predicted the high here of $27.50. We did get a wick above the parallel channel there, the top of the channel, but we didn't get any closes above it. So that I think is pretty remarkable. And I do think that this parallel channel is going to be a key indicator for where price could be going. And with price currently at 2140 being below this prior high and having broken below this neckline and these trend lines and Fibonacci levels that I have pointed out, I do think price will be going lower. I do think it will be breaking below the 618 as it has broken levels that it has previously tested as support. I do think that will be happening again, but I don't necessarily think it will get to the 786 because the yellow channel does stand in its way. And so I could see price coming down to definitely $20, but I do think that we will be breaking that level. And so while I don't think price is necessarily going to get down to 1848 or 1787, I don't think it's going to get to $18 a share, but I do think it could potentially be getting down to, let's see, I was going to say 19, but looking at that relative to the yellow uptrend, I think that would be pretty extreme. It's actually in the past right now. So I don't even think price is going to get down to $19, but I could see price coming down to right around $19.50. And from the current price, I do think that would be a discount. And I do think that if price does hit the yellow channel, I do think that we could then be seeing a move from, let's see, right around 1950 here, going up to the top. That could represent a 58% swing, maybe more, maybe less, but I do think that that would be a great opportunity to wait for a wick down to around 1950 and then to see price rise. As long term, I think that the price of Palantir will be rising, but I do think that there will be some dip buying opportunities in the near term. And so, I do think that this yellow uptrend right here, the base of the channel, could be a great level. But if, like I said, that does not hold, we do have the green level as backup and then the blue line here at 1787. I think that those would be great levels to be averaging in before seeing price take off, getting up to right around $31 a share. I think that's definitely possible in the next few months. And so that is what I am looking forward to after we see a slight pullback. But those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.